Today's story is about how the biggest betrayals don't start with confessions. They start with small details you're taught to ignore. An extra toothbrush, a 1-second pause, and the moment you realize you're not losing your mind, you're just finally seeing clearly. There were 2 toothbrushes in the bathroom. That's how it started. That's all it took. 1 extra toothbrush. Gray handle, soft bristles. Not mine, not hers. It sat in the ceramic cup like it belonged, like it had always been there, like it had earned its place. That's when I knew. I didn't say anything. I didn't even touch it. I just stared at it for a solid minute, the way you stare at a spider and wonder if it's fake, until it moves. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Not peaceful quiet. Calculated quiet. She was in the kitchen, humming. She never hums. I went back downstairs, sat on the couch, picked up the remote, didn't turn on the TV. I kept thinking, who brushes their teeth here? Because it's not a guest toothbrush. It's not a just-in-case travel one. It's worn. Used. Homey. And then I remembered the razor. A couple of weeks ago, I found a men's razor under the sink. I assumed it was an old one I forgot about. But I use black razors. This one was silver with a navy grip. Tiny detail, easy to ignore. But not now. Now the razor had a friend, the toothbrush. When she walked in with her glass of oat milk and that ridiculous mug with a raccoon on it, I asked casually, "Hey, whose toothbrush is in the upstairs bathroom?" She paused, just for a second. But a second is enough. "Oh, that's Wren's. She stayed over last week. Remember?" Wren. Again. Always Wren. I nodded. "Right, of course." But Wren never used that bathroom. She always slept on the pull-out in the downstairs den, and she hates soft bristle toothbrushes. She once complained mine felt like, quote, one. So unless Wren had recently suffered amnesia and decided to start brushing upstairs with a toothbrush she didn't like, someone was lying. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I just laid there, watching her back rise and fall while my brain dug through 6 years of memories like a raccoon in a dumpster, tearing apart every late night, every canceled plan, every "I'll be home late." And the worst part? I wasn't even surprised. Not really. I'd been ignoring things. The weirdly timed showers. The always charged phone she kept face down. The sudden interest in podcasts about, quote, 2, she was preparing her exit. Or worse, she already had 1 foot out the door and just hadn't bothered to close it yet. The next morning, I checked the bathroom again. The toothbrush was gone. Gone. Like it had never existed. And that's when I realized she saw me see it. That's when I knew I wasn't crazy. She was just faster. By the time I got home from work the next evening, the toothbrush was still gone. Completely vanished, like it had never existed. I didn't ask about it again. I acted normal. Sat down, ate the soup she reheated from 2 nights ago. Told her it tasted better the second time, even though it didn't. That was the moment I realized I wasn't just doubting her, I was doubting myself. Every smile she gave me felt like a test I was failing. Every casual glance from her was now loaded with subtext I couldn't decode. I kept replaying that 1-second pause from the night before, the microscopic hesitation after I asked about the toothbrush. Normal people don't pause unless they're editing something in their heads, and I couldn't shake the feeling that she was editing everything now. Trimming her words, rewriting history, cropping out whoever had been brushing their teeth in my house. The next clue came from the stupidest place. A CVS receipt. I found it folded in half in the side pocket of her coat while I was looking for her car keys. Not snooping, not at first. Just looking for the keys to move her car because mine was blocked in. But there it was. One of those long CVS receipts that looks like a scroll from a forgotten civilization. I almost threw it away until I saw the date. Monday. 11:26 p.m. I blinked. Monday night she told me she went to sleep early. She said she had a migraine and even asked me not to put on music while I was cleaning up in the kitchen. That night she didn't kiss me goodnight. Said the lights hurt her eyes. But here was a receipt that said otherwise. And here's the kicker. She bought 3 things: travel-sized mouthwash, breath strips, and a pack of condoms. I stared at that flimsy slip of paper like it was a loaded weapon. My heart started pounding so hard I had to sit down on the edge of the bed. She wasn't sick that night. She was out. And the mouthwash, the breath strips, she wasn't just seeing someone. She was preparing to see someone. And I had said goodnight to her. I had walked past her in the hallway and mumbled, "Feel better," while she probably had 1 foot out the door with her phone on airplane mode. That receipt, that piece of recycled paper, was more honest with me than she'd been in months. I put it back in her coat, not because I was trying to hide that I found it, but because I wasn't ready to be caught knowing. Not yet. I wanted her to think everything was fine, so she wouldn't shut down. I needed her to feel safe enough to keep lying. That night, I made a conscious effort to be the man she expected. I laughed at her half-funny stories. I complimented her on a dress I'd already seen her wear 20 times. I let her fall asleep with her head on my chest even though it made my skin feel like it was being electrocuted. Because I had a new plan now. I was going to let her walk deeper into the lie. I was going to let her feel bold. The more comfortable she got, the more careless she'd become, and I was ready to watch every single step she took. The next few days felt like playing chess against someone who had already decided they were going to win by cheating. I didn't confront her. I didn't change a thing. But I started noticing everything. The way she typed with her screen slightly tilted away. The way her voice changed when she was talking to her sister, a little too careful, a little too upbeat. Most of all, the way she started asking me what my plans were. Not in a sweet, interested way. In a, "do I have the house to myself?" way. I checked her calendar. I've never done that before. It wasn't even hidden, just synced to our shared iPad, buried among her meal plans and dentist reminders. Most of it looked normal. Grocery runs, staff meetings, a haircut. Then there it was. 3 p.m., reflections. Studio, Sunday. That's it. No other details, but I knew that name. Reflections was a yoga studio, but not the one she normally went to. This one was across town, far enough that she'd need an excuse to be gone a few hours. I checked her location history from her Google account. She'd been there 3 Sundays in a row. We had never once talked about it. That Sunday, I told her I was driving to my cousin Henry's to help him put up shelves. A lie. There is no Henry. She barely looked up from her phone when I said it. "Tell him I said hi," she replied, tapping out a message I wasn't supposed to see. I waited 20 minutes after she left, then I followed her. I know how that sounds, like I'm crazy, like I'm paranoid and breaking boundaries, but let me tell you, when your reality starts slipping out from under you, you stop worrying about what's healthy and start needing to know what's real. She wasn't at the yoga studio. She never even turned in that direction. I watched from 2 cars behind as she took a left, then another, and pulled into a parking garage attached to a hotel. A hotel. She parked. She didn't even hesitate, just walked in like it was routine. I didn't follow her inside. I couldn't. My hands were shaking too badly on the steering wheel. My stomach felt like it was filling with smoke, the kind you can't breathe through. I sat there for an hour. When she came out, she was wearing different shoes. That night, I asked her how yoga was. She said it was so grounding. She told me the instructor had such good energy today. I smiled, told her I was glad, and inside, I started dying in a way that didn't make noise. After the hotel, everything changed. Not for her, but for me. Something inside me hardened. Not in a dramatic, movie-style way. There was no revenge montage, no big plan. I just stopped responding to the version of reality she was trying to sell me. I let her talk, I let her smile, I let her kiss me on the cheek like everything was fine, and I let it all bounce off like I was made of rubber. She noticed, but not right away. At first, she thought I was just distracted. She'd tilt her head and ask, "Long day?" Or, "You okay?" I'd nod and say, "Just tired," and she'd accept that. But by day 3, her tone shifted. The questions came faster, her eyes more focused. "Are you mad at me?" she asked one night while brushing her hair in the mirror. I told her no, because I wasn't mad. I was watching her unravel in slow motion, and part of me was morbidly curious how far she'd take it. That week, I started documenting everything: photos, screenshots, the receipt, her calendar entries. I didn't know why exactly. I wasn't even sure what I was building toward. Maybe I needed evidence in case she gaslit me. Maybe I just needed a record for myself, something to prove I hadn't imagined it all when I finally cracked. But there was something satisfying in collecting the pieces she thought I was too stupid to notice. Then came the text. She left her laptop open while showering. I wasn't snooping, not actively. It was right there, open on the kitchen table, notifications popping up like whispers daring me to look. And one of them was from a contact saved only as R. It said, "Room 414 again, or you want to switch it up?" I didn't click. I didn't need to. I just stared at it while my soup went cold. I heard the water shut off upstairs. I closed the screen. Not to protect her, to protect me from doing something reckless. That night, I tried something different. I kissed her first, full on, like I meant it. She blinked in surprise but kissed me back. She touched my face, told me I seemed like the old you again. I smiled and said, "Just grounding myself." She laughed at that, said it was funny, said she'd told someone the same thing earlier this week. Grounding, like it was a shared language. She had no idea I was quoting her lies back to her. The real power wasn't in catching her, it was in not letting her know she'd been caught. That was the night I decided I wasn't going to confront her. I was going to outgrow her lie while she was still dancing inside it. She made salmon that night, lemon dill with couscous, her go-to meal when she wants me to think everything's stable. I sat at the table across from her, watching her pour wine like it was just another Tuesday, like there wasn't a second life growing in the corners of our marriage like black mold. She asked me how work was. I told her it was fine. She told me hers was busy but productive, whatever that means. Then she asked, should we go away somewhere? Just us? Maybe in December? And right there, in the middle of the meal, I realized she wasn't trying to save anything. She was trying to pre-clean the mess for when it eventually exploded. Lay down nice memories she could point to later and say, "See? We tried." I nodded, said, "Sure, let's look at places this weekend." She smiled, a little too fast, and went back to her fork like that fixed something. But she was smiling at a version of me I no longer was. She didn't realize I had become something else entirely. Not colder, just emptied out. Later that night, she fell asleep on the couch, wine glass still half full, phone resting on her stomach. And here's where the universe gave me a gift. It vibrated. Once. Just enough to light up the lock screen. I didn't touch it. I just looked. It wasn't from R this time. It was from someone saved as Ava Pilates. The message was short. "He's still buying it?" I sat there next to her, not breathing, because I suddenly realized that even her lies had layers. It wasn't just one person. It was a network, a structure. She had named people after places, hidden affairs inside fake friends. Pilates wasn't exercise. It was a damn cover story. I stared at her face. She looked peaceful, maybe even content, like none of this was eating at her, like she wasn't coiling herself around her own web of dishonesty. And in that moment, I felt something dangerous creep in. Not anger, not heartbreak. It was detachment. She was becoming background noise. I went upstairs, opened my laptop, and started moving money. Quietly, slowly, nothing dramatic. Just enough to protect myself. Just enough to be ready. Because this story wasn't going to end with a confrontation. It was going to end with disappearance, mine or hers. It was a Thursday when the message came. Not from her, not from anyone I expected. It was from someone I hadn't heard from in over a year. His name was Caleb, and until recently, he was just a familiar face from her office Christmas parties. He always seemed nice enough, a little quiet, definitely observant. I remembered once he told me he was training for a marathon and still managed to eat 3 slices of cake at the dessert table. That was the entire extent of our relationship. We never exchanged numbers, so when I got a message from him on LinkedIn of all places, it didn't feel random. It felt placed. It read, "Hey, I know this is weird. Can you talk?" I didn't respond right away. I just stared at the screen, that familiar dread blooming in my chest. I was already deep in it, already floating somewhere outside my own body most days, but something about the timing made me reply. We ended up on a phone call that same night. No small talk, no warm-up, just 5 seconds of silence, then his voice, low and uneasy. "She lied to me too," he said. That was the first sentence. And it hit harder than I was prepared for. I didn't even have to ask who she was. He told me they'd been talking for months. At first, casually, then daily, then constantly. He thought he was special. She told him things, said I didn't listen to her, said I was emotionally cold, distracted, working too much. The greatest hits of manufactured distance. She told him we were drifting apart, that we were technically still together, but emotionally done. Classic. He believed her. They'd never slept together, he said. Not that it mattered by that point. Emotional infidelity has a different weight, but it still sinks. The twist? She told him she'd broken up with me 2 months ago. He said that's when she got distant, like she was juggling something, and then she ghosted him entirely. No explanation. Just vanished. He only reached out to me now because, in his words, something never sat right. I didn't know if you even existed the way she described you. That line nearly buckled me. I had become a ghost in my own marriage, a character in someone else's fiction. I had been rewritten, blurred, minimized, until I was just an obstacle in someone else's story arc. Caleb wasn't the enemy. He was collateral damage, just like me. We talked for nearly an hour, quietly, carefully. It wasn't 2 betrayed men raging. It was 2 strangers sitting in the rubble of the same demolished building, comparing floor plans. When we hung up, I sat in silence for a long time. Then I opened her laptop again. Same spot on the kitchen table. Same trust that I wouldn't look. There was a new message open, unfinished, drafted but never sent. It was to someone named L, no other name, just a single letter. It read, "We're almost there. He has no clue." But I did. And now, so did someone else. She caught me off guard. I wasn't ready for her to say anything. Not yet. I was still collecting pieces, still hiding in plain sight. But that night, as I got into bed, she rolled over slowly, looked me dead in the eyes and asked, "Do you still love me?" I blinked. That was not the question I expected from someone balancing a secret life and a list of fake names in her phone. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't fishing for affection. She looked serious, nervous. Her hand was half under the pillow like she was holding on to something for support. I didn't answer right away. I just looked at her and realized I had no idea what she wanted from me in that moment. Honesty? Reassurance? Permission? She kept staring. Then, before I could say a word, she added softly, "You've been different." I swallowed, said, "Yeah, you too." She looked down, bit her lip, then whispered, "I haven't been fair." That line sat heavy between us. Not an apology, not even a confession. Just enough to make me wonder what she thought I knew. I didn't respond. I didn't ask what she meant. I just rolled over, pretending I was tired, even though my heart was beating loud enough to echo in my ears. She was testing the water, nudging the edge, seeing how close she could get to admitting something without saying the words. But she had no idea that the moment she asked me if I still loved her, I realized I didn't even know who I was talking to anymore. I didn't confront her the next day, or the day after that. Instead, I kept moving quietly, calmly, like someone tiptoeing through a house already on fire. I spoke less. I smiled when expected. I even offered to pick up groceries. But inside, something had fully settled. Not anger, not pain anymore. Just stillness. Like standing at the end of a long hallway and finally seeing a door wide open. What broke the silence wasn't her. It was me. One evening, after dinner, while she was rinsing the dishes, I told her I'd booked a weekend trip for myself. Just me. A cabin a few hours away. I said I needed space to think, to write, to breathe. She looked confused, maybe even a little hurt, but she didn't stop me. Not even a single question. And that silence told me everything. The truth is, I never went to that cabin. I packed what mattered, grabbed the essentials, and instead of going north, I went east, back to the city I grew up in. My brother had a spare room, no questions asked, just a key in my hand and a quiet, "Take your time." I didn't leave a dramatic note. I didn't expose her secrets or blow up her life. I simply left a printed photo of the toothbrush, folded inside the receipt from CVS, and placed it on the nightstand. No words, just two objects that said, "I know," without screaming it. Weeks passed. Then, a month. She called. Twice. No voicemails. Just her name on the screen. I didn't answer. Not out of spite, but because there was nothing left to say. When someone builds a world out of lies, the kindest thing you can do is walk away before they ask you to stay. Now, months later, I've started over. Different place, smaller apartment, simpler routines. There's peace in making your own coffee in silence, in choosing what stays in your life and what no longer belongs. I even started running again. Nothing serious, just enough to remind myself that forward motion feels good. Some nights I still wake up wondering how I missed it all. Other nights I sleep like a stone, knowing I left before the house collapsed. The best part? There's only one toothbrush in my bathroom now, and it's mine.